Okay, so in the last tutorial we studied that how a static web page with the username and a password and a submit button is being made, and then user enter the details, and how the action is being mapped to the user, the another HTML page. But the only problem over here was that when we were doing it, we are getting only the static content. So today we'll discuss about the dynamic web content, where the web server will say, oh, I can't handle this request, now the servlets need to take care of it. So today we'll discussing about the servlets. Let's close it and first study what actually a servlet is. It's just a name being given servlet, but it's nothing but a Java class only. But you must be wondering that how can a simple Java class be called a servlet? So that we'll see that how we make a simple plain Java class a servlet. So in simple terms, servlet is a Java class residing on web server and is used to generate dynamic web pages. Fine, so this is what a servlet is. So let's create a simple Java class over here first. Let's create a package. This you can delete it. Package info Java. This is just a class which it's create by default. We don't want that. Okay, let me create a class. Let me name it as servlet underscore class and then just finish it. Clear? So now this is a simple plain Java class. Now we need to make it a servlet. So there are three ways to create a servlet. The first is implements servlet interface. Let's first study about this only, okay? It's showing me an error. Why? Because we haven't added any jar file for this. So we need to add the required jar files also. Right click, go to your build path, configure build path, libraries, add external jar. Here you can find a servlet API jar. Yeah, this is the one you need to add. Open. Okay, now you will not be getting an error because you will be importing this interface from the servlet. Okay, now we all know that when we are implementing an interface has an abstract methods which are not being implemented, or where implementation is not written in the interface. So whichever class implement the interface, it has to add the implementation of those methods. So it will add those unimplemented methods, and these are also called the lifecycle methods of servlets. By lifecycle methods we mean these are the methods which control the flow of servlet. Just like for normal Java class, we have a main method which controls the flow. If any Java class we are running, the request is first going to go to the main method, and from there the execution begins. That is a lifecycle method. Similarly, in servlet we have some methods which are lifecycle methods, and the flow of servlet begins from there. Here we can see we have 5 methods over here. First is destroy, public void destroy, servlet config, then is get servlet information. These 2 methods are also important, but these are not the lifecycle method. These basically give us the information about the servlet, nothing else. The main methods are destroy, Then we have the below two methods, that is init and a service method. From servlet config and get servlet info, we get the information about the servlets that I'll tell you about the later class. But here the main focus will be on three methods: init, service and destroy. You can see that init, service and destroy methods. So in whichever way we are creating a servlet, like I told you, three ways are there, so I'll tell you the other two ways also. These three methods will be definitely there. So the one way should be very much clear to you. So we have init. I'll just tell you what actually these methods do. Init method we have, service method we have, and we have destroy. Now, as the name indicates, init method is the one which will be called only once by a servlet. This is not called every time this servlet is being called. It's called only once by a servlet. So you can write only your database initialization code, or some initialization code can be written over here. Database connectivity, etc. Basically you can say the initialization code is written, because this is not called for each request which is coming to this servlet. Like first time this servlet is being requested by me, so okay, now I'll be having the init method being called, and whatever the code is written, it will be executed. Next time I am again requesting this servlet, no, init will not be called. It's being called once. Another user is doing, then that is a separate thread for that person, so it will not called again. Next we have a service method. This is the method which is called for each request. As the name indicates, this will service each request. This is called for each request. And also you will be studying in the life cycle. These are the life cycle methods in the basically in the flow of the servlet, or you can say the life cycle of the servlet, because these are the methods only. That this service method is called for each request, but for each request the servlet object is not created. If we see overall, this is nothing but a Java class. So object creation needs to be done, but for each request, object is not going to be created, because a user can access that particular URL multiple times. By sometimes we do it for fun also. It's not happening. We refresh. So creating an object so many times will definitely overflow heap. So what actually happens is, if the object is not created every time, one object is created. Inside that object, for each request, a spread is being spawned, or it's being created, and it is going to process your request. This is a very important point, that object creation is only once. We'll study in the life cycle of servlet. These are the callback methods, you can say, of servlet, or life cycle methods of servlet. Fine. So this is called for each request. Next we have destroy. Similarly, like init method, this is also called only once. This will be called by garbage collector only once all the work of that servlet is complete. All the work of servlet is complete. This is being called. So this is how the three methods are being called. So whatever logic you want to write, you need to write it inside your service method. Clear? Okay, so I will be telling you about other two ways and showing this implementation, but before that, let's just study the life cycle of servlet. Since you have now fair idea about this, you should only tell me, like first time, if we say what will be the life cycle method, first step, like this is servlet is nothing but a Java class, so first step will be compilation, definitely. So first step is compilation. .java class is being converted to .class file. Second step, instantiation. Yes, an object of an servlet is being created. Now, who is going to create an object? We are not using any new operator to create that object. Definitely the web server. Web server will do this job for us. Web server is going to create an object for a servlet for us, and it will just create a one object. Create and only one object, not for each request it is being done. After that, now object is created, so now we can call the methods, like callback methods of servlet. So first name it will called initialization, the next phase is called initialization, calling the init method. Clear? After that is called the request handling, that is service method called, and for each request a thread is spawned. Service method and a thread is created for each request. These all are the things which are being working at a backend. Fine, but you need to be clear about that. After that everything is done, just the destroy method is invoked. Once all the work is completed, destroy method is called. Simple. The first compilation, then is instantiation, that is an object creation, and then we have the init method, initialization, request handling, and the destroy method is called destruction. This is the lifecycle method of a servlet. Clear? Fine. Okay, so now let's see how in the service method we are going to write it. Also, one more thing over here. Now you know that, like, for the incoming URL, I am not going for this login.html from here. I will not go to this welcome.html. Rather, I will do something that this URL is being mapped to this servlet. That I'll tell you how I'll do that. But now, and this servlet will send back the response back to the web server, but the response it will be sending back will be HTML response only, because when it is sending a response to web server, then web server is not going to do any modification. It will just present that as it is to user. So the HTML part also needs to be taken care by this servlet only. So we can say that here in servlet, in the Java class, we write the HTML content also. So servlet is nothing but obviously Java class is writing on web server to generate dynamic web content, but here we can say that this is an HTML being embedded in Java. So servlet is nothing but HTML embedded in Java. So this is HTML inside Java. Obviously this is not a good thing. Why? Because the web developer basically, because Java files are being created by web developer, he needs to have knowledge of the presentation tier. That is a web designer job also. It needs to be done by the web developer. So there is no clear separation of the business and the presentation logic, but this is how the servlet technologies work. Clear? So HTML is being written inside the Java. You can say that HTML is written inside Java. Clear? Okay, now let's do that dynamic web content. How everything is done. In it, I am not going to do this for the time being, and I'm just renaming it to request. I'll tell you about this also, and response. What actually happen is, when the web server is forwarding the request to the web container and it's calling a servlet, then definitely web server has got those request and response object. It is HTTP request and response objects. So that will be having my information about request object, is having all the information about the form elements, username, password. So it needs to pass those to the servlets also. That is the same thing which is being passed to this service method, because it is going to handle my entire flow. That is why it's passed over here. Clear? Now first, since we want the content to be went back to client, so we need to writer object which will be used to write the HTML tag. So for that we use the print writer class. This is out. Since this is a response, so I'll get it from response dot get writer will give this object. then out dot println. Here I can write my welcome user, whatever I was writing over here. But after this, I will need to embed the dynamic content. So first I need to get those username. So for that I'll be using the request dot get parameter. Which parameter I need to get? Username. This will be same as the one written in the HTML form. Clear? String name. Now I'll be writing over here. So everything is done, but one thing is left out. Why? Now just let's run this application first and see what actually happens. I've created a servlet, I have done everything, I have written the HTML, I have not shown this, so it should come over here, but let's see what actually happens. I got it. So I'll write Ravi over here. Again, password Ravi, submit. I'm still getting welcome user. So what's the problem? This is because whenever I'm doing this, its request is going to web.xml. Here there's no servlet mapping, so it's again coming back over here. I need to map the URLs to this servlet. So how servlet mapping is done, that I'll be discussing in the next tutorial, and finally we'll be getting our dynamic page.